Speaker. Jerry Patterson is a man who's devoted his life to the service of our country and our state. He is a 24-year veteran of the Marine Corps, served as a state senator, and for the last 8 years has served as Texas Land Commissioner. In that office, he oversees Veterans Affairs for the state of Texas. The National Museum of the Pacific War, the Texas Historical Commission, and the Admiral Nimitz Foundation are proud to welcome Commissioner Jerry Patterson.
Thank you for the introduction. It's mentioned that I'm a Marine, and I'm always reminded, usually by somebody in the audience prior to when I speak, that you can always tell a Marine, but you can't tell him much. I'd like to start out with a biblical quotation, which says, "Blessed are the brief, for they shall be re-elected." Particularly when the speakers have been in the shade, and the gentlemen, particularly those from WW2, have been sitting out here in the sun, so I will be brief. You know, I'm the fourth generation of 5 consecutive generations of service in time of war. And I've asked, why did you join? Why did you do what you did? And my answer is kind of simple, and it's, it's what we did. It's what my family did, and I suspect will always do. My son is a Marine captain, Cobra pilot, currently on active duty. I have grandsons, and I don't admonish any of those, or my son or anyone, to do those things, but I kind of have a hunch that's what's going to happen. Several years ago, almost 2 decades ago, I wasn't all that upbeat on America's attitude towards military service. In fact, I got some notes out of an old speech that I'd given before, about 20 years ago when I was in the state senate. And I had a question in there, and it was phrased like this: is military service an honorable endeavor, or is it a casualty of a politically correct cultural climate that regards the term war hero as a contradiction in terms and regards Memorial Day as an excuse to sleep in? Those would be the same folks that had the bumper sticker that says "Visualize World Peace," as if that could actually occur. Well, there's been a tremendous change in public attitude. It started with Desert Storm, Desert Shield. It continues to this day. And it is something that is extremely gratifying for this old Marine to observe. We do have the support of the public. Unlike we had when I came home in 1973 at the very end of the Vietnam War from Southeast Asia, it is a different dynamic today, and we should be proud of that. I also, in that same speech, talked about heroes. I said, who are today's heroes? And I used examples of rock stars, and frankly, if I had mentioned the rock star that I mentioned 20 years ago, we'd kind of go, huh, because like most, he faded from the scene. But were the heroes rock stars, or billion-dollar, million-dollar jocks, or actors? And then I would cite my heroes, which gentlemen like Roy Benavides, Sergeant Major, United States Army, retired Medal of Honor recipient. They're not winners, by the way, they're recipients. Or Chesty Puller, as a Marine, we all know about Chesty Puller, who coined the phrase, when surrounded, that we can attack in all directions. Or my hero, my personal hero, when I was a little boy growing up in Houston, Texas, because I saw this movie. I wanted to go see this movie, and it was about a guy named Audie Murphy, 5 foot 5 inches tall, 112 pounds, one of 12 children, sharecropper family, who tried to join the armed forces, couldn't do it, had to put some weight on, finally did, and ended up as a Medal of Honor recipient and the most decorated veteran of World War II. He was my hero, and I wanted to go see that movie, but I didn't know how to ask my parents because it had the word hell in it. The movie was To Hell and Back. And I don't know how, Mom, I want to go see Hero America. But I finally got to go see that movie. He was my boyhood hero. Those were the heroes that I grew up with. And I think heroes today are coming back. And it's not focused just on athletes or movie stars or shock jocks or anything like that. It's people like Todd Beamer, the guy that, quote, that said, "Let's roll." He wasn't wearing a uniform, but he sure was a hero, in my book, anyway. I think of heroes in the venue, heroes like my dad, B-24 pilot, World War II, called up in the reserve in Korea, or my son, Major Selectee U.S. Marine Corps, 2 tours in Iraq, going again sometime next summer, flying the AH-1 Zulu, the latest attack helicopter in the United States Marine Corps. I think about some comrades who are not here today. First Lieutenant Ron Forrester, commissioned with me at Texas A&M in January of 1970. MIA and ASEX somewhere in Southeast Asia, recently declared KIA, wartime casualty. And also think of a guy named Jim Bob Seegers, Lieutenant Commander, United States Navy, had served with me in a squadron, who was a peacetime aviation accident casualty, died for his country, even though there was no war, either declared or undeclared. I think about what military service taught me. You know, I entered the service with a great prejudice, and that was against Yankees. I just didn't like them. They talked funny. They were different. But when I went to Quantico, Virginia for the first time in 1966, and I served in OCS, or I didn't serve, whatever, I don't know if it's the right term, with young men from Pennsylvania and Minnesota, you know, in New York, and Long Island. And I found out that they were just like I was, except they couldn't speak the English language. They played baseball, football, they were Boy Scouts, they had the same attitudes and had the same things to be proud of that I did, but they just weren't like me. And I come to find out I lost that prejudice very soon. Because the armed forces, in my view, are probably the most, our service in the armed forces is a great democratizer. I don't know if that's a good word or not, but I'm an Aggie, so I can use it. It's a great equalizer. It doesn't make any difference how you talk, what state you came from, what the color of your skin may be, whether you're a Yankee or a Red, didn't make any difference. How much money your dad had, didn't make any difference. When I was told to get off the bus and fall in on the tarmac out there and do so alphabetically according to height, we were all stupid. And we served and we learned that it didn't make any difference because we all, at least at one time, raised our right hand and said we would serve, without regard to background or wealth. And there's a passage that I always read when I speak to Memorial Day or Veterans Day or something else. And if you would, we all know about the Battle of Iwo Jima. We all know that that was an epical picture by Joe Rosenthal, the raising of the flag on Mount Suribachi, the movie Flags of Our Fathers, that later became, the book Flags of Our Fathers, that later became a movie. But if you would, just for a moment, place yourself on D-Day plus 23, which would have been March 21st, 1945. And there was a dedication of the 5th Marine Division Cemetery at Iwo. And the speaker was a Jewish chaplain named Roland Gittleson. And he said in part what I believe sums up the great democratizer that military service is. Commander Gittleson said, "Here lie men who loved America because their ancestors generations ago helped in her founding, and other men who loved her with equal passion because they themselves are their own fathers, escaped from oppression to her blessed shore. Here lie officers and men, Negroes and whites, rich men and poor together. Here are Protestants, Catholics, and Jews together. Here no man prefers another because of his faith or despises him because of his color. Here there are no quotas of how many from each group are admitted or allowed. Among these men, there is no discrimination, no prejudice, no hatred. Theirs is the highest and purest democracy." So today is a day of solemnity. Today's a day of a lot of things. And so sometime today, have a brief, solemn, and prayerful moment. But keep in mind that at the end of that, it's okay to partake in fun, frivolity, family, friends, beer, and barbecue. Because those two gentlemen I mentioned, Ron Forrester and Jim Bob Seegers, would have wanted it that way. So God bless you. God bless America. And Semper Fi.